All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 6:30. So I would like to call this meeting to order. I established that we do have a quorum. All trustees are present. And so I'd like to announce that this meeting of the Seguin Independent School District has been duly called, and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.043 of the Texas Government Code. This evening, Mr. Guetta is going to lead us in the pledges.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
I'll give us all a bit of time for a moment of silence. All right, before us this evening we have two action items. The first one is the consideration and approval of an order calling a bond election to be held by the Seguin Independent School District, making provision for the conduct of the election and resolving other matters incident and related to such election. I believe Mr. Lewis will be visiting with us.
President Thomas Menes, Dr. Gutierrez, the board, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening and kind of sharing a little bit of review about what we talked about in our last several workshops. We brought forth a committee recommendation from the Facilities Committee that has met over the past, since last March, about 8 or 9 months of work with the committee and with architects. And we submitted the 6 items to you for consideration for bond proposal. These 6 items total $64.7 million. They were part of a 3-tiered system. Tier 1 was about $133 million worth of projects. Tier 2 and 3 totaled about another $70 million worth of projects, give or take. That was also including if you were to convert Sagard into a school, so there was a little bit there. So all the rest of them, close to $200 million worth of projects. So these items were chosen based on need and trying to move forward with that larger plan of looking at the next 10 plus years of facility needs and to bring all our facilities up into better condition over the next year. So the projects were a $39 million renovation of Riesenmeister Middle School, the entire campus complex, the infill, the parking, the driveways, $17.3 million stadium rebuild at the current stadium site, $3.9 million to start a Jefferson renovation, do the south building, doing some classroom upgrades. That project, as we remember talking about, it's more than just $3.9 million. If you were to do the whole school, there was a second phase to that, which would come down. We would get that piece started. There is $1.8 million for outdoor accessible place, ADA accessible playscapes, fall areas, multi-sensory play areas, shade canopies, and all schools would get some upgrades to their, all the elementaries upgrades to the playscapes. We did include $1 million for land purchase to do a future campus replacement of McQueen Elementary, and $1.7 million in campus improvements, including some drainage, HVAC, plumbing, possibly some furniture purchases too for campuses. Tonight you're going to read an action item to approve a proposition. As part of that action item that you would make is to declare the amount that you wish to include in the bond presentation. That will be filled in on the order before it's signed by the board president and the board secretary. And then you, of course, vote on that proposition as the motion's made. just some items we went over last time, and we have Mr. Kyoga here if you have any questions again about the bond piece. It was a 5-cent proposed increase based on 2 bond sales equaling about $65 million over 2 different cycles, 2 different years. It showed a annual increase of once the 2 year after the 2 bond purchases on a $200,000 home, it'd be an annual increase of $100. This kind of broke down the pieces there. We did go over our current. This has been posted for the last 2 board meetings. The current outstanding bond debt that's out there. Just want to make sure that was presented again. So we showed the graphic that showed the current bond debt we have and the years that we dropped debts, moving through the process. We did bring up the over 65 homestead exemption. We talked about that at the workshops. And then again, the dates to call a bond election. Of course, we have until this Friday, midnight, to call that bond election. We have voter registration through April 4th. First day of early voting is April 22nd. Last day of early voting is April 30th, and election day is May 4th. We talked about our early voting sites. Early voting will be open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the 22nd to the 26th, and again on the 29th and 30th, so 7 days of early voting. We'll have the main site will be right here in the administration building, and we'll have early voting sites at Friesenmeister, Barnes, Jefferson, Potlan, McQueen, and Vogel, all open for the same times. And then our May election is a standard voting hours, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and again, it's all the same sites will also serve as an election day site. So these are all a review of what we've discussed through our workshops, our 3 workshops that we have, and we present this order to the board for consideration and possible adoption tonight. And we're open to questions or comments.
Any questions? No questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to discuss, we discussed a little bit in one of our workshops about the possibility of adding baseball and softball fields, and I believe there's a little more updated information about the cost of that facility.
So the cost that we started with was the $4.4 million for baseball and softball, and the shared concession facilities. I think there was some changes during some of our meetings with the coaches. They requested to go with artificial turf
Correct.
on the infield, and then it changed again, and they asked for artificial turf on the entire field, for the baseball field only. So that changed the cost. We looked at pricing, and again, I want everybody to understand that these are just budget numbers. This isn't, we don't have a scope of work.
Correct.
So these are good, solid budget numbers, and we're between $5 and $5.2 million. If we're going to go with artificial turf on the baseball field.
If we were to wait on building those facilities and do it separate from, let's say, the renovations of the Matador Stadium, would there be a cost savings there? Would the price go up if we do it at a different time than Matador Stadium?
Yeah, it would definitely go up.
Approximately.
Well, it all depends on when the district decides to pull the trigger on those. So if we're talking about a year difference, you're looking at about 5.5 to 5.6 million. So we're dealing with inflation, unfortunately. So
Right.
that's kind of where we're going with it.
So would you say?
Having a contractor on board at the same time, you get some of the savings because they can buy the material in bulk, and then you have your saving on using the same subs. Just demolition, a lot of the side work will be shared cost. So you have to bring in new contractors and mobilization and so forth. So tear down, come back.
So would you feel comfortable in saying that if we did that at the same time, it would be approximately $250,000 to
I'd say about
$500,000?
10% savings. So, $100,000.
Thank you.
Again, it's all budget numbers, but it's comfortable, I think, round numbers.
Any other questions? Ms. Moreno?
Mine is on the long-range plan that the Facilities Committee has given us. I think, and we talked about this at our last budget workshop, is that ready to go out to the public where they can see what Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 is about, so that they don't think we're just hitting the
Correct.
wall and going, this is where we want to go.
So we have a website that will launch tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
That once the board makes a decision, if you don't make a decision, there's no need to launch it tomorrow right away. So if you make the decision, we'll make sure that, and we'll continue to add documents to that as we go. Have the election order, have the posters that we had up here during all those, the 3 workshops. We'll put those up again. We'll put those on the website, and so all those documents will be accessible, so they can see the Tier 1, 2, 3 process. And other documents we'll put, going through with our facilities documents and making sure those are posted and such.
Any other questions?
I'd like to discuss, and I don't know if we can do this without a motion on the floor, but the possibility of still being able to construct the baseball and do the renovations with softball without doing it as part of the bond, but as part of another way of funding. Is that a possibility? I just want to get this on the record for everyone to hear the answer to these questions.
Can we answer? So any construction process or item is on the record. So we would encourage that we look through our long-range plan as we're talking about uses for fund balance anyway, and then can we identify items on there that can be pulled from fund balance. So anytime the board wants to direct us to bring forth information for a possible fund balance designation of funds, we can do that. So
And when do we start working on the budget for next year?
we've already started.
We've already started.
We've already started the budget, and then so usually Tony, that comes to the board, not comes to the board, but we have our first workshop.
Typically, we would have it in the middle of February, but we've been a little focused on this. But within the next couple of weeks, we'll be organizing the first budget committee meeting, and then a workshop shortly thereafter. We typically do a budget workshop. We offer them up on the calendar as a monthly item, but we leave that up to the board's discretion as if they want to have a workshop every single month.
So if the board were to want to discuss with you all who are putting the budget together, possibly including things in next year's budget that we could take out of fund balance, we could do it at that time.
That would be the time we would do it, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'd love to entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I move to adopt an order calling a bond election held for the Seguin Independent School District in the amount of $64.7 million.
All right, Mr. Amador has made a motion to adopt an order calling for a bond election to be held by the Seguin ISD in the amount of $64.7 million. Do I hear a second?
I second.
I have a second from Ms. Moreno. Any further questions or discussion?
I would just like for the board to consider, as soon as possibly, if we can add the baseball and softball fields into a construction project, I would really like to see that happen the same time Matador Stadium is built, should this pass. The cost savings to me is very exciting. The whole bond is very exciting to me.
I agree with you, and I also think it'd be nice for us to be finished with the entire high school package down the road. I mean, closer than instead of waiting for doing it down the road. Any further discussion? If not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. And the motion carries 7-0. All right. We have a bond coming up. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. All right. We also have as an action item to adopt a resolution approving the use of a new voting system. And it looks like Tony's going to come up and talk to us about that.
This time I'll actually keep it quite brief. I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Lisa Adams. She's the county elections administrator, and they're excited. The county is excited. They've got a new voting system, and I know the last time that we were here, you had some questions about that voting system, and so Ms. Adams is here. She'd like to share with you a little bit of information about that system, but do know this is an action item because you just passed an order to have an election, but you can't have an election without also resolving for us to be able to use this new voting system. I'm sure there's some way we could do it, but we'd have to go back to the old technology. So we'll let Ms. Adams speak to why this new system is so wonderful.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. We are very excited about the new voting machines that we have purchased, the new election system for the county. That actually, the county passed a resolution today in Commissioner's Court adopting the system for the county. So this is officially our system of record now, and we hope that everyone is excited about it as we are. As you know, if you voted, which you probably have, we currently have been using a touchscreen voting system. It was what we would call exclusively a DRE, which is a direct recording electronic system, in which the voter activated their touchscreen with a voter card. It pulled up their ballot style. They made their selections on the screen by touching the screen. When they were done, they had an opportunity to review their selections, and once they confirmed that these were their selections, they could cast ballots. Their vote was cast, their card was ejected, and they were done. We have had, over a period of time, voters that ask how we know their vote was cast as they intended. And the system is tested extensively. We have never had any problems with it, but we have listened to what the voters are asking for. Our new system is what could be termed a hybrid system. It meets the specifications of a DRE system per the Attorney General's office. It's usable in vote centers, which is what we use now in November, but the voter still gets to vote on a touchscreen. Their ballot is now activated with it's a piece of ballot stock about that long and about that wide. It's the barcode printed at the top with their ballot style. That's all that's on there. It's just their ballot style. When they check in, we print their barcode, we hand it to them, they walk up to the touchscreen, they insert that ballot into the touchscreen. It's blank at this point. They vote on the DRE just as they always did. They have the ADA options. They can listen to their ballot. They can make the font larger. They can change their language. All of these things at any point throughout the ballot. Once they have finished voting their ballot and they want to cast their ballot, instead of hitting a cast ballot button, I believe it's a print ballot button now. The functionality is exactly the same. They hit that button, it prints their selections on that strip of ballot stock. It ejects it. They can take it and hold it in their hand, and they can look at it and make sure it matches what they voted. And then they have to walk over and insert it in a precinct counter. So basically, a scanner scans that ballot, retains it in its sealed ballot box, and they, at that point, have voted. Then, if there's any need for audit later down the road, the Secretary of State requires post-election audits. If there were a recount, we would go to those paper ballots to determine the recount. There is no data stored on the touchscreens any longer. Nothing is tabulated on those touchscreens. They're simply what we call a ballot marking device. So at that point, the voter has cast their ballot. They've had multiple opportunities to look at it. They have looked at it to see that it matched what they had on the screen. They insert it, and they're done. If they were to not put that ballot in the ballot box, which we will not encourage, that's their option. Just as there are voters who walk away from a touchscreen occasionally without hitting cast ballot, They could take this ballot out with them, but we will have plenty of staff on hand to ensure they understand that this is the same as any cast ballot on that touchscreen. It's kind of nice, the count increments on the ballot box, it says thank you for voting, they get their little flag, they get their sticker. I think they're gonna like it. If they were to print their ballot out and realize they made a mistake and this wasn't how they wanted to vote, they have the opportunity to go back to the check-in station. We would spoil that ballot, reissue them another ballot, and they could go to the touchscreen and vote again. That functionality does not change. It's essentially the same as canceling a ballot on the DRE previously. We still have the curbside option for those voters who cannot come into the polling place because they're mobility challenged. Our vote by mail voters will still get a full face ballot just like they've always gotten. Those things will all be there. Just the voting experience will be a little bit different, and we hope that the voters will feel more confident and secure that their votes are being tabulated as they were cast.
This sounds pretty straightforward. And at all of our schools where we're going to have the mobile stations, we'll have 1 or 2 machines. How many will you have?
A lot of that depends on what the school board wants to see. I wouldn't recommend putting less than 2 touch screens out there, in addition, of course, to the precinct counter. But that's something that we can discuss. I'm open to that. But I think voter education is going to be very important. We're going to go out and talk to the public and explain it to them. We'll have extra staff on hand to make sure the voters don't walk out with their ballot unless they really want to. We're going to discourage that, but that's their option.
Okay. Any further questions, Mr. Jenkins?
Sounds pretty neat. But how many languages does it support?
It supports English and Spanish. That's what's required by the Department of Justice right now for us.
Mr. Gato?
Are there other counties that have been using the system for several elections?
Yes.
And
Yes.
have you heard of any issues or concerns?
I have not. I did call all the references that the vendor gave us in the packet, and they were all thrilled with it. The voters really feel secure with this system. The election staff also seem to like the functionality. From the back end, of course, the voters aren't as worried about that as we are, but we've been using the same technology for a very long time, so we're very excited about having some new technology. And it's more secure. You know, all of that has been taken into consideration when the Secretary of State certifies it, but we haven't heard of any negative feedback from voters.
Mr. Amador?
To be clear, when I get that receipt for that vote to count, I have to put it in that ballot box?
To be clear, that is actually not a receipt, it's your ballot.
Okay. Well,
So, but I think that's part of the voter education is to make sure they understand this is actually your ballot. So it must be deposited in a precinct counter to count.
okay.
Yes, and we'll make sure when we do the voter education that that is very clear. I would encourage you all, when you talk about the upcoming election, to your voters as well. I think the more information we can get out, the better. This summer, we will be doing mock elections. I understand for May that won't help you very much, but we'll make sure we get the word out as much as possible.
Any further questions? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion for approval.
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. Duncan?
I move to adopt a resolution by the Board of Trustees of the Seguin Independent School District adopting the voting system.
All right, Ms. Duncan has given us a motion to adopt a resolution of the Seguin ISD Board of Trustees to adopt a voting system. I have a second from Mr. Amador. Any further questions? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you so much, Ms. Adams. All right, moving right along. We will be going into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. First of all, Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.074, 551.129, which is consultation with legal counsel, including possible telephone consultation with legal counsel as necessary to address legal concerns, contemplated litigation implications, and answer any legal questions regarding posted agenda items. Also, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, discuss personnel matters including appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public official employee. And pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.072, discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. So we will adjourn to closed section at 6:55. To open session at 7:21, and we have no further business, so do I hear a motion to adjourn? Mr. Amador, do I hear a second? Ms. Crittenden, all right, all in favor? And we adjourn at 7:21. Thank you.